Alright, so we're going to pick up from where we left off. So we were saying that B.F. Skinner was a behaviorist, and he advocated very strongly for the use of animals in research because he believed there's no difference if we use animals or if we use human beings. What he was trying to do was that he was trying to break down all sorts of behavior into stimulus response units. Now, what does this mean? So basically, the very crux of behaviorism is that, all sorts of behavior can be explained in terms of there being a particular stimulus, right? And there being a response, as a result of this stimulus, right? So, for example, if you give a rat, right? If you, for example, give your dog a treat, right? And they repeat a desirable behavior. So let's suppose that you're trying to teach your dog to shake hands, and when your dog shakes your hand, you give them a treat, right? So the stimulus here is the treat, right? And that's going to really sort of cement this new behavior that you're trying to inculcate, right? And the response is them shaking hands, right? And this treat that you're giving, right, this is always going to serve as this what we call reinforcement within behaviorism. I don't want to get into very technical terminology at the moment, but basically a sort of the treat serves as something that cements this dog's behavior to behave in a particular way, right? So basically what you can do is that you can assess any kind of behavior in terms of these stimulus response units, right? And Skinner was a huge believer in the fact that there is no such thing as human free will, because he believed that all human actions are governed by the sort of stimuli that you have, or the sort of training that you've undergone, or what he called the sort of reinforcement that you have, in the sense that if you do something and you are praised for it, it becomes more likely that you'll do it again, right? So basically, that is what his idea of behavior and choice was, right? So he believed that there is really no such thing as a free will, right? And that you're just controlled by the reactions that other people around you give to any sort of response that you make, right? So this was B.F. Skinner's idea of what psychology is and what it should study, right? Now what we see is that in response to, specifically psychoanalysis, which was the school of thought put forward by Freud, in which he talks about how, all sorts of behavior, all sorts of actions of a human person are governed by what goes on in the unconscious mind, right? And behaviorism, which asserts that human beings are nothing but the products of their environment, so they're completely governed by the sort of environment that they're in, right? So as a result, as a reaction to these movements, right, there emerged another school of thought which is known by humanism, right? And humanism basically revolted against these ideas because what it believed was that these ideas are extremely dehumanizing. Now, in the discussion, I will ask you how exactly are these ideas dehumanizing, and what you understand of why this term might have been used. What does this word mean, dehumanizing? What does it refer to? Right? So humanism was a movement that was started off by this psychologist by the name of Carl Rogers. And Rogers believed, and all humanist psychologists believe, that psychology ought to study the more positive aspects of human nature. So it should look at human beings' unique abilities. So humanists believe that all sorts of human beings have unique abilities, and that is what psychology should focus on, right? And all human beings have a potential to grow, right? And that is again something that psychologists should focus on. They should focus on human beings' unique abilities and their potential to grow, right? This is what the movement of humanism asserted. So it should move away from looking at human beings as merely products of their unconscious mind or products of their environment, right? And should look at human beings as these free agents who have unique abilities and the potential to grow, right? So this is basically what humanism asserted, that the subject matter of psychology should be looking at the unique abilities of human beings and their potential to grow, and it should concentrate more on the positive aspects. And this is we see here how the groundwork for something that we'll look at later, which is termed positive psychology, is laid. Right? So positive psychology is basically a movement within psychology that emphasizes on moving away from making psychology only about illness and focusing again on more of the positive qualities of human nature. So we talk of qualities such as resilience, for example, the fact that people are able to bounce back. So even if something really horrible happens to someone, they are able to bounce back from it, right? So that ability is called resilience, right? So in positive psychology, we look at more positive qualities within human beings, such as resilience, such as happiness, what makes people happy. We also look at things like what makes people content. We look at what are the attributes of people who are highly functioning individuals, in the sense that they are extremely content, and they seem to enjoy life to its fullest and have a perspective on life which is very positive, right? So this is basically what positive psychology concerns itself with, and which is a newer movement within psychology, right? As we sort of move forward, we've talked about positive psychology already, we've touched on it, but now in the modern world, what we see is that with psychology, with the discipline of psychology, there is a renewed interest in cognition again, right? Which is basically that psychologists are becoming more interested in studying thoughts, right? They're becoming more interested in looking at the processes that underlie thought. They're becoming interested in how perception works, for example, in how memory works, right? So this is what cognitive psychologists concern themselves with, right? So there is a return to looking at cognition, right? So this is something that is newer, because now we've been looking at all of how psychology really evolved. So we've been actually looking at its history, but now when we consider psychology in the modern world, what we see is that cognitive psychology has become something that is fast sort of becoming mainstream psychology. And now we have that combined with neuroscience, right? In looking at not just thought processes, but what are the underlying mechanisms, right? The physiological mechanisms that underlie thought. So yes, so this is the journey that psychology as a discipline has been on, and the journey is still ongoing with all of these different disciplines that we have within psychology. We have, a multitude of different disciplines, such as we look at developmental psychology, for example, right? We have social psychology, and this is something that we'll go over in more detail, right? We have, experimental psychology, and these are more of academic fields. Then we have different practical fields as well, in which we have counseling and clinical psychology. So yes, so we have, all of these academic as well as these applied fields, and what these really are is something that we'll go over in more detail.